Good afternoon. I'm Saad Al-Aziz, the owner and head instructor of Semper Fortis Jiu Jitsu here in San Antonio, Texas, and here to tackle this week's question of the week. So this week's question of the week is from one of our guys, Matt, who's getting ready for his first Jiu Jitsu tournament. And because I compete a lot, and also because I'm his instructor, he's curious what things I do before my tournaments. And so a few weeks leading up before the tournament, some of the things I focus on is like my weight class and the weight class of the people that I compete with is around 175 pounds. So I try to spar with people that are around my weight class, rather than there's very little benefit for me as a black belt at 175 pounds in tournament preparations to be sparring with a 300-pound white belt, because not only is it a skill level that's not relevant to me or comparable in the tournament, but it's a weight class and a body type that is going to be totally different than what I'm going to meet in the tournament. So I try to, even if say the person is a white belt, if they're around 175 pounds, that's a beneficial role because I at least experience their strength and their quickness and body type of somebody that I would meet in the tournament. Or if a person is a black belt and they're 300 pounds, that could be beneficial because it's a skill level that's going to be relevant to what I'm going to face in a tournament. Whereas an inexperienced, really big person is not going to be very beneficial for me, or an inexperienced, really small person isn't going to be as beneficial for my sparring. So what I would suggest is train with people in your roles, not every role, but the focus of your role should be people that are around your weight class and people that are around your skill level. So one of the things that the person that asked the question, they said, they like to spar with people, the advanced belts, but they find themselves sometimes getting demoralized because their techniques don't work. And that's a good thing overall, is because that keeps you humble to find out oh wow, my techniques working against everybody, and now I'm rolling with the black belts and the brown belts and none of my techniques work. So that keeps you humble and keeps you thirsty for learning more. But you want most of your sparring to be against people that are in your ballpark level skill. So let's say if you're a blue belt, I would say most of your sparring skill level is white belt, blue belt, and maybe purples, because sometimes you're going to meet a blue belt competitor who's going to have a lot of purple belt skill level techniques that they're going to be really good at. And so sparring with a purple belt would be very beneficial to you. So if I had to break it down into a percentage, I would say 70-80% of your sparring should be against people relatively your size and maybe a belt, same belt, belt down, belt up, but within that ballpark. And that would be the most beneficial sparring getting ready for the tournament. The other thing is focus on the techniques that you want to use. And it's like going back to an old saying we used to say in the military. We call it the KISS. Keep it simple. And what we meant by that is don't make the task more complex than it is. So let's say when I am in side control, maybe I know 100 ways to get out of side control. But what I want to focus on is just a couple ways that I immediately want to plan on getting out. So it's like my immediate plan is if I'm in bottom side control, I'm going for this escape. Rather than being on bottom side control, going through my Rolodex of moves, figuring out what's the most appropriate. Because a lot of times, as you're trying to figure out what the most appropriate move is, the situation changes and your opponent changes their position. So the quicker you can respond with the right technique, or sometimes it's an 80% solution. It's like, this isn't the best solution, but it's the best we got at the moment. And the 80% solution might be able to solve your problem. And so it's another phrase that we talk about in the military is sometimes you get paralysis from analysis. So when we develop our battle plans in the military, of course, most of my life, 33 years, I was in the Navy. So when we develop our battle plans, we focus on, you don't want to get paralysis from analysis, being so busy trying to get the perfect answer that you end up coming up with no answer and you're just frozen. So I would say leading up to the tournament, what I do is I focus on the submissions that I plan on going for in each position. And so if, let's say, I pick the arm bar and the triangle choke. So those are the two submissions I'll do in class. And I will ignore opportunities to hit a Kimura or to hit a loop choke or hit any other move. I'm just looking for those two submissions. Because what I found in jiu-jitsu, especially in tournament jiu-jitsu, the more I look for a specific submission, the more I seem to find it. So if you sit in a position in a tournament and time is going and you're going through your Rolodex of possible submissions, sometimes you end up with paralysis by analysis. You're overthinking the situation. And the same thing, like for the takedown. Go in there, hit judo class, train with some wrestlers, figure out what takedowns you want to do. And instead of, if it's a wrestling takedown, then there's no sense, letting the person grab your gi. Shoot for a double leg or, do an ankle pick or whatever. If it's going to be a judo takedown, then, okay, we're going to do the grab the gi. But don't grab the gi and then think of, say, the 100 judo throws that like grab the gi and be like, this is the throw I'm getting ready to do. So I try to go in there and I already know what I'm going to do. So it's like, oh, I'm going to shoot for a double leg. If we grab the gi, I'm going to, do a hip toss or an ankle pick, but don't grab the gi and then go through your Rolodex moves and figure out like, how should I take it down? As soon as that ref says come back, know exactly how you want to do the takedown. So if you want to do a wrestling takedown, don't let them grab gi. If you want to do a judo takedown, go in and get your grips, but be aware that, they may be shooting for a double leg. So be ready to sprawl at any time prior to the gi grab. So if you plan that out in advance and focus on those techniques, it'll make the tournament much easier for you because it's like you already have a plan. It's like, if I get the takedown and I'm in top in their guard, this is the guard pass I like to do from closed guard. Or this is the guard pass I like to do from top half, or this is the submission I want to go for if I'm in top half. And just start analyzing each position. And then come up with one or two, whether it's passes or submissions or escapes from each position. And then when you find yourself in that position in the tournament, you already have an advanced plan. It's like, I'm going here. I'm not trying to figure out what the possibilities or what escapes or submissions or counters I know. I'm going for this one. And sometimes it's not the perfect submission. Sometimes it's not the perfect counter or the sweep. But you're doing something. So you're not paralyzed by overanalyzing the situation. And so that's what I would suggest. So leading up, to a tournament, I focus on the things that I intend on doing in the tournament. The one or two escapes I plan on doing from side control, or the one or two escapes I plan on doing if they have my back, or the one or two escapes I plan on doing if I'm in this bad position, and if I'm trying to be if I'm in their closed guard, this is the guard pass I'm going for. And that's where my focus will be in my roles in class, is not doing every technique I know or trying to learn every possible technique, but focusing on the ones that I like, that I plan on doing in the tournament, and getting as good at it as possible. And so that's my suggestions. Train with people. The most of your roles when you spar after class should be with people roughly your size and around your belt level. And also focus on the techniques, going for the submissions and the escapes that you want to do from each position that you find yourself in the tournament. And that will make the tournament go much smoother for you. And so you already have an advanced plan, and you're not frozen by trying to figure out what to do. Because you're going to get, especially in your first tournament, you're going to find yourself in a position and you're going to freeze. You're going to be like, I know 10 ways to escape this position, but I can't think of which one I should do right now. And that's natural. It happens because that's the pressure of competition. It's like you got a timer working against you and you got an active opponent that's working against you, and you have to figure out what to do right then. So if you already have a plan on how you want to escape, or how you want to do the takedown, or how you want to do the pass, or what submissions you want to go for, these things will come to you a lot easier than if each position you're trying to figure out through my Rolodex of moves, what's right to do right now. Because then you end up being frozen, and then you just forget stuff, and next thing you know, the match is over, and they're raising your opponent's hand instead of yours. All right, that's this week's question. Hope I answered it. Feel free, especially for those of you that have competed, to make comments below to say, hey, these are the things I do when I compete, and this is what works for me. Because mind you, the advice I'm giving you is what works for me. It's not to say this is the best and the only way to prepare for a tournament. Ask other competitors, what they do leading up to their tournaments, what helps them. And anybody that makes comments below would be much appreciated, especially if you have advice on what works for you. All right. Feel free to ask a question for next week, and see you in class. Ciao.